Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Stamping with Susan and Julie. I am Susan LaCroix. This is my beautiful daughter, Julie.
Oh,
Demonstrators with Stampin' Up for just about 20 years. This is our 20-year anniversary. And we also are very quickly approaching our 1-year anniversary of Sunday Stamping. We're so excited. We live a couple states away. We don't get to stamp together very often, so we decided to come together online and do it and share it with you, our wonderful viewers. So we so appreciate all of you. And let's see, Julie, what's new?
It's busy. It's always busy. It never slows down. Today is Sunday, May 22nd, and you're actually in the car coming down to see us. I cannot wait. You're coming for Thomas's graduation, of course, and we have a birthday to celebrate tomorrow as well. So we're hoping to film in person, which is a treat. We don't get to do that very often. And yeah, it's going to be a busy week coming up, and it has been a busy week because it was the last week of school for the kids. Thomas is all done, but Claire has finals on Monday and Tuesday, and that is the last day for Elise and Anna as well. So that is hard to believe that it's the end of the school year, and it will literally be our summer in just a few days. And so it just feels like the end of the school year is always just really hectic, and it just feels like, we're sprinting right in the last part of the race to get to the end. And so I'm just on the precipice. I just feel like, okay, we're going to have a big sigh of relief. And we just have to get through a couple more days. We're almost there.
It's hard for me as a grandmother
to
realize that 2 of my grandsons are graduating, Thomas and his cousin Miles, in the same week. Thank God it wasn't on the same day. Otherwise, your dad and I would be flipping a coin to see who was going to champagne. But at least we can both go to both. So yeah, I just can't. I just think of Tom when he was just this little newborn, and Miles when he was just a newborn, and now they're graduating from high school. I mean, it makes me feel old.
Honestly though, it's stuff like this, the kids' milestones, that make me feel old. Not so much my own birthdays, but when they're celebrating big birthdays, when they're, having milestones like this, it makes me feel old too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm excited for them. And I remember chatting with Tom the last time we were there, and I said, so how bad is the senioritis? And he went, bad.
Oh, it's bad.
I am just really having to push myself, and it's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it's almost over. He goes through these, I feel like these periods where, he just wants it to be done, but then he also everything is it's the last late start Wednesday, it's the last archery tournament, it's the last, and so it's this mixed feeling of wanting to be done, but also trying to savor every last, and it's
I remember when we took you to school, how excited you were to be going away to college. And I remember saying to you, things are going to really change, because you're not going to be around us at all. And then you're going to come home next summer and you're going to wish you weren't there. And that happened. And then sometime during your second or third year, you called me up and said, Mom, I don't want to do this adults thing anymore.
Oh yeah. I remember talking to Dad. It was probably pretty close to graduation, or maybe soon after. And I was like, why didn't you tell me that being an adult sucks so much? I don't want to do this. I tell that story to Thomas all the time. I was like, you just need to enjoy every minute of being a kid. Don't be in a hurry to grow up, because you got plenty of time to do the grown-up thing.
Hey, okay, enough chat.
Let's get to the table, and we'll show off what Stampin' Up product we are going to highlight today. So today's suite is called Lovely in Linen. In our Sunday stamping videos, we've been trying to feature some different suites and different products from the new Stampin' Up catalog. And so this is the 2022 to 2023 Stampin' Up annual catalog. Let's get some light on this desk. So Lovely in Linen is one of the suites, and it consists of some gorgeous designer paper. This is called Lovely in Linen, and it's a 12 by 12 paper with some really pretty colors. I was just trying to think. I feel like they're very wintry colors. We have the new in color Sweet Sorbet paired with some of the previous in colors like Pale Papaya, Soft Succulent, Evening Evergreen, and then we have some Night of Navy, and there's a little pink in there too, like right here, and I can't remember which pink that is. Is that Flirty Flamingo, Mom?
You know what I was thinking? I thought it was Sweet Sorbet, like stamped off once. That's
Maybe.
but it could be Flirty Flamingo.
I'm gonna pull out here and let's see. It does not say. So maybe it is just a lighter version of Sweet Sorbet. Let's take a look at the other sides. We've got some great like monochromatic patterns here. And oh, that's one. That's fun. And then we have a punch bundle that goes with this bundle. So it is called Lovely and Lasting, and it has this new label punch. I love punches, and so I'm really excited to have this new label. This is called the Lasting Label Punch. And then the stamp set is a photopolymer stamp set, and it has a label like outline, and then the flower, the tile, and some different sentiments that all fit into the label, as well as these like little accessory pieces that you can use to like embellish the sides of the label and kind of coordinate everything. The last bit of this suite is the Quattro foil embossing folder. It's kind of hard to see, and I should have probably embossed a piece. Let me show you a card sample. Here's one where I used Pale Papaya to do that embossing folder. So you can kind of see it has sort of that like mosaic kind of pattern, very similar to the designer paper. And the first time that I was showing off this designer paper, I thought, oh, I think the designer paper and the embossing folder are gonna line up, but you know what? They don't. I tried it on all the different like patterns in the paper, and it does not in any way, shape. Like one of the mosaics does line up with one mosaic, but then they're not spaced out to do them all, which is an unfortunate missed opportunity.
I think so. You know what I like, Julie? I like how you stamped on the label, and you've got it going vertical instead of horizontal, which would be, you know, intuitively you want to just stamp it and use it, but I like that. And then you added some of the little embellishments you were talking about.
I think that most of the sentiments in this stamp set will fit the label both vertically and horizontally. So that's kind of fun. Let me show you a few other samples. Here's one I did with the flowers in the background, and then the tile stamped on the Pale Papaya. This one is actually inspired by a sample from the catalog in the bundle index. I used the same layout and kind of changed up the colors and some of the other little pieces. And I really love the way this card turned out. I punched the designer paper with the label punch, and I used a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 or 4 by 5 1/4 of the same color as the card base. So I glued the labels to that piece so that I could cut off the edge. And I think just adding another layer like that kind of helps to finish off the card. So the designer paper kind of tiled there, and then the label going the opposite direction, a little bit of ribbon and some of the champagne rhinestones. They're kind of hard to see, but they're in there. Well, one of the things while I was playing with this that I thought of, and I wanted to kind of show this a little bit before we get started, is this tile piece here. And I used it on the background of this card, like right in here, but it is made to tile together, and it is sized to do that with the Stamparatus. And so I just kind of wanted to show that really quick. I don't use my Stamparatus very often. I guess I was playing around and forgot to get another sheet. I think it'll work right here. So I've just got a half a sheet of the white cardstock here, and I have that little tile on the Stamparatus plate. So we're going to line it up and stamp it, and then I'll show you how you can just step over the Stamparatus plate and line that up.
Do you not have the magnets up?
Well, I've got the cardstock just all the way in the corner, so I don't think I necessarily need the magnet.
Okay. I always use the magnet just because sometimes the paper can shift.
See, I don't use it very often, so I didn't even think of it.
Mm.
Oh, I'm missing one. Okay. I'll put it up there. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to step it over, not one, but 2 steps in the tray, right? So that's one of the techniques you can do with the Stamparatus is you can like step it over and like, you know, go again. But for this design, you're going to step it over 2 steps and then ink it up again. And I did try doing this just with a clear block, and I was able to line them up pretty well. So if you don't have the Stamparatus, you can still see through the block and kind of line these up. So here's one that I did just kind of by eyeball. And I think I did pretty good. Like there's a couple mistakes if you look closely, but if you don't have the Stamparatus, then you can still do it. But the Stamparatus just helps you to get that tiled and lined up perfectly.
That really does look nice, Jay.
So that's just 2 steps over with the Stamparatus. So you put it on there and then you're going to stamp and go 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and you could just keep going down the whole way.
You know, I could be wrong, but I know when the Stamparatus came out, we were the only one that had one that you could do that. You could remove the plate, move it down to do step stamping.
I think so too. I think that's one of the features of the Stamparatus is that it does have that removable plate that can move over. And then we also have plates, or the plates can go both directions. So I think that's something that's unique to the Stamparatus as well.
Nice.
All right. Are you ready to show your project, Mom?
I am. All right. So I actually have 2 products or 2 cards to share with you today. So I've kind of pre-done quite a bit of it just for the sake of time. But I'm using some sweet sorbet cardstock, 8.5 by 4.5, scored at 4 1/4. I've got a piece of 4 inches by 5 1/4 of very vanilla. This goes on the inside, so I'm going to set that aside for a moment. I have a piece of designer series paper, 3 inches by 4 inches. Another piece of designer series paper, 1 inch by 4 inches, and then this piece, which is 3 1/4 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So you've got another little card. Okay, so I am going to start with that actually, and move some of these. And Julie, I don't know if you noticed, but I have another piece of the grid paper out. Last week
I did notice.
This is the parakeet party. So.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, I finally got mine ordered, so it's
coming.
It's coming soon.
Okay, so for this one, what I want to share with you is a technique that I'm really gonna mess up this paper, but that's all right. That's what it's for, right? So I'm using my sweet sorbet ink, and I'm gonna ink up this big flower. But before I stamp it, I don't want red leaves on here. So I'm gonna take my blender pen. And I'm going to, I don't want to get transfer ink anywhere. And I'm going to remove the ink from the leaves. And then I will recolor them with the Stampin' Right marker. So not a blend. I'm using our regular old Stampin' Right markers.
Those don't get enough love these days.
They really don't. But I love this technique. And I don't know if I shared this before, but when Angie first, my daughter-in-law, she like wanted to learn how to stamp. And so she was down, I think we were here actually. And so we were doing something and we were coloring on stamps with markers. And she got all excited. She said, I was wondering how you guys did that. How you got multiple colors on one stamp. So you can actually, for the sake of time, I'm just doing the leaves, but you can, like, if you wanted the smaller blooms or the centers of these big flowers a different color, you could do this very same thing. But like I said, for the sake of time, okay, so now I've got that done. And I'm going to take the darker of the blends, and I'm going to take the brush tip, and just a word of caution, don't use the point of the marker because you will blunt it and then you won't like coloring with them anymore. So I'm using like the side of the brush, and I'm just adding some color to the leaves. Like I said, you could, if you wanted to, remove color from the other flowers, the smaller ones, but not doing that today.
Sometimes I have problems using the markers on the photopolymer stamps, and usually it's when I haven't inked up the stamp yet. There's some type of like residue, I think, from the manufacturing process. So if you are experiencing that, where maybe it's pulling up and you feel like the color is not staying on the stamp as well as Mom's is, then try to just ink it up with regular ink and clean your stamp before doing the marker technique.
Sometimes the ink might get a little dry, so you have to huff on it and then stamp. And I always just let the stamp sit on the paper so that the paper pulls in to get a nice rich. And I wasn't going to do this whole technique. I told you I'm just going to start it, but I did the whole thing. So that's all right. So so now I'm going to add my designer series paper. And
I love the look of that. It looks so sharp.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this little guy here. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do the inside. I just cut this strip, so you have to watch the direction of your designer series paper. And that is going to go on the bottom. And then I'll put this on the inside of my card real quick, because I do have another card I want to show you. So I have to hurry before my producer yells at me. Right, Jen? Okay. So I also already have this done, and I'll put this on with dimensionals at the end. But what I wanted to show you, I'm using.
I love how you layered the oval onto the label. I think.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to do something a little bit different and add just a little something. So I am going to cut a big piece of this. I'm probably cutting too much, but what I wanted to do is I want to tie a bow around here. So what I'm going to do is I like to use tear and tape with ribbon. So I'm going to put, because I want to anchor the ribbon maybe about here. Oh, shoot. I didn't put that on there very well. Let's get that off of there. Otherwise, we're going to have a huge problem later. All right, so I'm going to take off my tear and tape. Backing. Sure I am. And I'm going to stick this on here and then come around and tie a bow. And I have a friend from high school who told me that if you tie your bow upside down, it'll always be in the right, the bow will be in the right spot. So shout out to Lori Hurd. Do you know I'm going to see her in a couple of weeks for our 50th high school class.
Oh my goodness.
50 years. It'll be interesting to see some of my classmates.
So it's not like a big milestone anniversary for my high school class, but everyone started, we have like a Facebook group, and everyone started posting updates like this week and sharing like you know, this is what I've been doing for the last however many years. And it's so interesting to like be reading these updates at the same time that Thomas is getting ready to graduate and
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
about like my high school classmates and how I've kept in touch with them or not. It's a little different for me though, because we had just moved to Muskegon when I started high school. And so and then we only lived there for 4 years. So the people that I went to high school with, I only lived in the same town with them for 4 years while I was in high school. And then that was it. And so most of them I haven't seen or thought about since graduation. Like there's no running into people from high school, as I'm milling about town or anything like that. Or even when I go home to visit you guys, because you don't
Really,
live
it
in the
doesn't
same
change. It doesn't change.
place.
So here is this card. And the whole idea being that you want to, now I just tied this in a huge old knot. Okay, so the whole thing being is that you want to untie this and you have a nice little card. So this is one that I did where I did add more color.
Ooh.
Versus the other one, which looks like this. In some ways, I like this because I think the colors are richer on here. And this one just looks a little more watered down. And so I'm not real crazy about it. But that's one card that I wanted to show you.
That's fun. I love that sort of like extra little peekaboo.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's just, I did put anything way in here for people to know that they should untie the bow.
I was just thinking that. I was like, how do they know to untie it? Like, what if they don't untie it and they don't get to see that?
And they won't get to see the inside.
Oh,
So it's something to think about if you're making this card. All right, I'm going to set this aside and show you my next card. So this one, I'm using soft succulent as my card base. Same, except 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5 1/2. So it's going to open from the top. And this one I did use that Quattro foil embossing folder on there. And this is not like a 3D. So this is just a standard embossing folder.
yes. There's not many standard embossing folders
there isn't.
these
No.
days.
So the inside is going to have this piece. And I cut this down a little bit, 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. So this guy, I love this paper with the mosaic, right? And so I sat there looking at it and thinking about it and decided I was going to cut the edge off so that we have this edge, right? So I'm actually using 3 rows. And it's fairly easy and quick to cut this out. And this is the first time I was playing with this suite. So these are the only 2 samples I have.
It's such an interesting design. It reminds me of a quilt.
Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh, Julie, you just gave me an idea. Some of these patterns, you can run it through an embossing folder to make it look quilted. So that's an idea. And I really probably should have cut this down to fit the, I just realized that this is 6 inches. Okay. No, come on, baby. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here, and then I'll just cut off the bottom a little bit. So, all right. So I think I want this slightly off-centered. And I am going to use tear and tape because of the embossing folder. Because sometimes things don't adhere really well. You find that, Jules? I think she's on mute.
I did mute for a second. What did you say, Mom?
Oh, I was tear and tape because of the embossing.
Oh, yes. I was thinking the same thing. And then someone came in and I muted to hear what they were trying to tell me. I always try to use tear and tape when there's like extra texture or like multiple folds just to make sure it stays put.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to just put this over here. I'm going to start at the top, down, and then take my snips and snip it away. All right. And then on this side, what I did for the inside is I have some extra pieces that I just started playing. So I just cut one strip off and decided that I wanted this to kind of hang over a little bit because I'll show you when I get it in. So I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm actually gonna put this down here. And cover this up. Okay, come on, Susan, get it together here. I like how that pattern looks against the cardstock color. And so this will just go in here. Like so.
Oh, I like the way that looks.
Just something a little bit different. And then to finish this off, and I thought I had one made ahead of time, but I don't. So I have to do this, and I apologize. I don't have this done. Thought I did. All right. So this adds another little thing to your label, your thing. Well, I'm talking very technically now. So I'm going to stamp the outline of the label on here and then punch it out. Well, I guess I can stamp the inside too, which is going to be thinking of you. This is in Sweet Sorbet. The outline was done in Night of Navy. Line it up. All right. And Julie does this so much better than I do. Let me show you what I do. Because I put a bunch of this stuff on here in the bag. And I just start making loops. Because no matter how many times I try to do it the way Julie does, it just really doesn't, I can't get it to look as nice as hers. So
I struggle with ribbons sometimes too, like that. I feel like I do it over and over and over, but I kind of like, I make bunny ears like a bow and then I stick it on the back.
I've tried that. So, all right. Anyway, that's good enough. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals. I just have to keep practicing, Julie. That's all. Whew. Marathon time. I've never tried to demonstrate 2 cards on one of our videos, so I hope timing wise this will be all right.
It'll be fine. The other one was pretty quick.
I tried to do as much as I could, so I'm going to just kind of, I'll see, I don't like this. All right, well, this is where we'll go, and I'm going to fix it later. So let me show you the good one. So I just added, you know, a couple.
There you go. Oh, I like it.
So anyway, those are my 2 projects. I'm sweating. Oops.
Oh, you really showed off the designer paper beautifully.
Well, thanks. So this is crooked. Oof. Okay. You're up, babe.
All right, let's switch the camera over to my desktop. So I wanted to open up and show you in the catalog again. You guys know I'm always inspired by the catalog. And so it was this sample here, the Best of Luck, on page 24 of the 2022 to 2023 annual catalog that I was inspired by. And I think it's hard to tell on camera here, but what's really fun about this is that the stamped image is then embossed. So my card is going to go pretty quick because I have some things kind of done ahead of time, but I'm going to give you the measurements. I'm using soft succulent for the card base. That's just 5.5 by 8.5. And then I have a piece of designer paper and white to go on the inside. That's 4 inches by 5.25. And then the piece we're going to stamp on is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4. I love the technique, Mom, that you were showing with the markers. And this is kind of a cheat of that. So again, I just sort of did what they did in the catalog, but I thought it was a good way to cheat. And so we're going to do the flowers solid in pale papaya ink. And I was having some trouble earlier, so I'm going to just pick that up and give it a little background, make sure I get good contact there. And then here's the little cheat. Instead of, trying to marker and do all the different colors, which I love the look of, I'm going to just add this little leaf and kind of put that in here and sort of have that be the leaves. I think once you add the embossing folder, it kind of covers up a lot of the extra color anyway. So this just kind of adds that pop of green without having to do the markering and all of that stuff. So we're going to take this piece then, and we're going to put it in that Quattro foil embossing folder, and we're going to run it through our die cutting machine. So this is a technique that isn't new at all, but it's just kind of a fun way to add some texture to your image. So you want to make sure that you do all of your stamping first, and then do the embossing folder and send it through. So here's what that looks like. And you can see that extra texture. It just really kind of makes it look kind of cool and extra fancy. So this is going to be for the front of our card. For the inside, I forgot to do this ahead of time. I'm just going to add a little, just a little flower here in the corner. And I might as well, since I have it out, add a little of those green leaves again too. Boop. Boop. I think just two. Okay, so this is going on the inside. I have a piece of designer paper for the front, and I think in the original card, they had it go to fill the entire card front, but I kind of liked having a little border around it. So I chose the pattern that has soft succulent and evening evergreen, and I'm going to add that to the front. So you see the soft succulent cardstock all around it. And then this piece is going to go on with Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm gotta reach for a sheet here. I'm down to borders. I think it's time to get some more out. Oh, here you can see my mess up. I didn't push hard enough, and so it didn't quite stamp all the way in the middle.
That's what's great about Stampin' Up. There's two sides to every sheet of paper.
That's right. With larger stamps like this, I know a lot of you find that using the Stamparatus kind of helps you in situations like that where you don't get a good stamp image, because then you can just ink it up and stamp it again. And then you get the image that you want. So that's going on with Stampin' Dimensionals, just to add a little extra dimension. So now we're going to finish up with a little strip of cardstock. I'm using a 1x4 piece of the Evening Evergreen. And I'm just going to put on some regular adhesive. Though I did think about the tear and tape, because like you said, Mom, just with the texture of the cardstock underneath it, but I'm just going to kind of give it some extra rubs, and hopefully that'll hold it. For the label, I'm going to do thank you in Evening Evergreen, and I just punched this ahead of time since I wasn't using the border. And on my original, I didn't do this, but I want to add a little bit of extra flair on the side. So I have the little flower, and I'm going to do that in pale papaya. So really subtle, just to kind of add a little extra to that label and kind of tie in, I think, the flowers. So we're going to do, this is how I do it. I do back and forth with the ribbon to kind of make like almost like a figure eight, but a really, really flat figure eight. And then I'm going to cut the ends and maybe do a little adjustment because I want those ends to stick out. So I love to put down the ribbon and then use tear and tape to hold it down, or you can use some Stampin' Seal like you were doing, Mom, to put that down first, and then it kind of holds it while you're monkeying around a little bit. But I'm just going to hold that down with a little tear and tape, and then I'll add the label right over it, again with some Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm really at the end of this. Right down there. I always like to go like over to one side or the other. I guess kind of a rule of thirds sort of thing. And to finish off the card, I gotta add some bling. So I got out my champagne rhinestones, and we're going to use, I was looking for something that was pale papaya, and this isn't quite pale papaya, but
close enough.
I thought the tone was pretty close. So I'm going to go in the middle of those flowers.
I've used that with pale papaya a lot.
Yeah. So on all of my card samples, I'll bring the other ones back in that I shared earlier. I used the white seam binding ribbon, and I used the champagne rhinestones, a little harder to see there. And then this one too, seam binding and the champagne rhinestones. So there are my cards using the Lovely and Linen Suite.
Very nice, Julie.
Thank you. I was feeling kind of stuck, but as always, once I started getting going and just, playing and putting, ink to paper, it worked out really well. Let me show you really quick before we flip. I wanted to bring the catalog back in and show you how my card compared, because I did make I made a couple changes to the original card. So I kind of stuck with the embossed image and putting it on designer paper, but I changed and added an evening evergreen strip and then the punched label, because the label is part of that bundle. So I just wanted to kind of show that off some more. I added the ribbon, and then they did use embellishments. I think they used a different one in the middle of the flowers.
I like yours better.
Oh, thank you. I often, when I copy the catalog, I always say copy and selectively edit, because there's always something that I tweak or change to make it my own. And so the label and the cardstock piece and the ribbon was the part that I changed on this one.
Perfect.
All right, let's flip the camera around and show off our projects. So that's the Lovely and Linen Suite. Mom, what do you think of this suite?
I like it. I love embossing folders, and you can kind of get a shabby chic feel. I think one of the things I like about this designer series paper, some of it has very vanilla in it.
Yes.
And some has basic white. So we don't often see a lot of very vanilla in the designer series paper. So I'm seeing it a little bit more. We've kind of been putting little bugs in Stampin' Up's ear about wanting to use more.
Yeah, I don't use it very much unless it is in the designer paper. Yeah. So that's a very good point. Well, I love the label punch, and that's always like when I'm looking through the catalog, that's always what I'm buying first is those label punches. And so even if you don't care for the stamp set and the designer paper, I think definitely this label punch is going to be a staple in your stamp collection. But the thing I love about the stamp set is that it has these like little pieces and the stamps that coordinate with the label punch. So I don't know, I like it more than I thought that I would, and I really love the cards that I've made. So
yes,
that always happens.
Right. It does. It really truly
and if
does.
You're watching at home and we convinced you about this suite, we're sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
Well, a little bit of both. Well, there's so much in the new catalog that we haven't touched on yet. So if you have ideas of what you would like to see, whether it's a suite or a new set of dies or a new bundle or a new stamp set, leave a comment and let us know. We did receive a few ideas a few weeks ago. So we're kind of making a list of things to showcase for you over the coming weeks and months. So keep sending us your ideas and we'll do our best to accommodate them.
Absolutely. Well, Julie, I'm on the road. I should be there soon.
Oh, I cannot wait to see you, Mom. I'm so glad that we get it'll be a short visit. It is really just like 2.5 days or something like that.
Yeah, because we got to turn around and head back to Michigan for Miles.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to your visit and so glad that we're going to get to stamp together in person this week. And we look forward to sharing again with you next week for Sunday stamping. So be sure to tune in next Sunday at noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode of Sunday Stamping with Susan and Julie.
Have a wonderful week, everybody. Love you.
Love you too, Mom. Bye.
Bye.